We all hit a time where it actually starts to cost us more to keep working than it does to retire. But how do we know when that time might be? Well, in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 reasons why it might be time for you to retire. Hey everybody, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial, and I'm here to teach you how to get the most out of life with your money. So there's obvious reasons why you might need to keep working, and many of those reasons are financial. There's income, there's benefits, there's 401k, etc. But at some point, the marginal benefit of those extra dollars begins to fade and it actually starts to cost us to keep working. That's the case when one of these 5 factors is starting to come into your life. So what are the 5 reasons it might be time for you to retire? Well, reason number 1 is when you start to realize that time is the only non-renewable currency. There's always more money to be made. Even if it's difficult, there's a way to make more income. There's a way to make up from financial loss. Money is something there's always more of, even if it's difficult to actually achieve. Time, on the other hand, time is something we can never get back. And the earlier on in your career you are, the more money matters and the less time does. You have a lot more time, a lot less money. So the focus is on growing your money and you'll sacrifice time to do so. But at some point, once you've accumulated that money, once you have that enough, time becomes a much more important resource. Time becomes that thing that you realize is non-renewable. I worked with a lot of people who retired, and they retired later than they wanted to because they just never got around to doing it, but they felt like they had all the time in the world once they retired. And tragically, within a couple years, sometimes even within a couple months after retiring, these people fell ill and some of them even passed. Now, in those final days, they weren't thinking about having more money. They weren't thinking about their portfolio. They weren't thinking about the last bonus they received. They were thinking about time. They were thinking about what I would do to get more time. Now, this seems dark, this seems somber, but this is really one of the things I encourage people to really think about when it comes to retirement. Yes, you need to be financially ready. Yes, you need to make sure that you're prepared, but once you're there, the more we put off retirement, the less time we have, and you realize at some point, sometimes too late, that time is never something you can get back. So you do have to strike a balance. This isn't to say everyone can just get up and go retire and have all the time in the world. If you don't have the financial wherewithal to do it, you're not going to be able to do much with that time that you do have. However, once you are ready, once you're in a position to do so, understand how much more important that time is. That time to do what you want to do, that's something you'll never get back. The money is something that will always be there. Granted, it may be difficult, granted, it might not be easy, but there's always ways to make more of it or to recoup any losses there. Time is a different story. So remember that time is a non-renewable currency, and the remembering of that or the awareness of that can hopefully drive us to ensure that we're retiring when it's appropriate as opposed to continuing to work indefinitely. The second reason it might be time to retire is you may need to improve your health. Now imagine the average person who's a year away from retirement and they've spent 40 years grinding, they've spent 40 years putting in overtime, they've spent years paying off a mortgage, raising a family, having children, doing all these different things. The average picture of that person is someone who's overstressed, overworked, burnt out, barely getting by. So by the time the average person actually reaches retirement, there's just a lot of burnout, a lot of stress, and that stress leads to negative health outcomes. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be stroke, it could be cardiovascular issues. There's all kinds of negative health impacts that stress can cause. So what we have to realize is typically those later working years, when we're in our peak earning years, we also might be in our peak stress years. So if you're in a job that's demanding a lot of you, realize it's demanding more than just your time. Your health is an important aspect, and if your health deteriorates after a certain point, it can become very challenging, if not impossible, to fully recoup that. So the last thing anybody wants is to retire, but then just sit around because their health isn't good enough for them to be able to do what they want to do and enjoy what they want. So it might be time for you to retire if you're realizing work isn't just taking your time, it's also starting to take your health. Retirement might be a way to get your health back. You have time, you have the availability to focus on reducing stress, to focus on exercising, to focus on eating right, to take care of yourself so you can actually enjoy that next season of your life and do everything you want to do. The third reason it might be time for you to retire is to spend more time with family and friends. Now, the quality of our relationships is largely what determines the quality of our lives. But think about the average person working. Let's assume you work 40, 50 hours a week. Let's assume there's a few more hours that you're commuting. Let's assume there's a few more hours where you're running errands, where you're cleaning up in the house, where you're doing the things that need to be done to live. How much time is left for friends and family? How much quality time is left for friends and family? Now, before you start thinking I'm anti-work, I'm very much not anti-work. I love work. I love my work. I know a lot of people love their work. There's just that balance that we need to strike between how can we do something we love, something that's productive, something that's fruitful, but make sure it's not holding us back from the things that matter, whether that be health, whether that be friends and family, whether that be other factors. So back to this reason, focusing on friends and family, when you look at it, too often people say, yeah, you know what? I just don't have the time to stay in touch with that friend. I don't have the time to call my sibling or my parent or my children or whatever it might be because work is so demanding and life is so demanding. Well, if you're at the point where it doesn't need to be so, you're financially prepared to not need work, ask yourself, what's it costing me in terms of my relationships with friends and family, my time that I can spend with them, more importantly, the energy I can devote to them. If it's starting to detract from that, it might be time for you to retire. The fourth reason it might be time for you to retire is you have to realize your best years are limited. A lot of people, maybe they're 62 years old, and they say, okay, I might live till I'm age 92. I've got 30 years left. Seems like a lot of years, but we have to understand not all those years are created equal. You're gonna have a lot more energy, a lot more health, a lot more ability to do what you wanna do from say 62 to 65 than you will from 82 to 85. So it's not really 30 years that you have. You might have 30 years of lifespan, but how long is your health span? How long will you have your health? How long will you have your energy? How long will you have that ability to do what you want to do, whether it's travel or activities or engage in the hobbies that you have? It's probably not for the next 30 years. So I see a lot of people at 62, they might be in a good position to retire. But they say, I'm just going to keep working. I want to hit 70. I want to max my Social Security benefit. I want to put a few more bucks away, and I'll still have a good amount of time after that. Well, you might, but realize age 62 to 65 might be the best years. Then 65 to 70 might still be really good years, but just a tad bit less good. Then 70 to 75, and what we start to realize is, yes, there's still life, but the quality of that life might start to decline, especially, to go back to my last point, if more work is detracting from your health and it's actually taking years off of your life. So when we're looking at retirement and understanding, okay, I might have another 20, 30 plus years, realize they're not all created equal. And even if you just work another 2, 3, 4 years, those might be the best 2, 3, 4 years of your life had you spent them doing other things. Obviously, everyone's different with this, and obviously, as I said at the beginning, we need to balance this. This isn't to say everyone should just go retire. A lot of people aren't in a financial position to do so. But once you've reached that position, ask yourself, what's this costing me in terms of the best years of my life? And should I be retired and pursuing the things I actually want to be doing? And the fifth reason it might make sense to retire now is you're financially ready. Now, I've been touching upon this the whole way, but what I often see is it's very difficult for someone to spend 30, 35, 40 plus years in the workforce and then just automatically say, you know what, it's time for me to retire. That work, that thing that we're doing 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, week after week after week, year after year after year, that becomes part of our identity. And even if we don't love it, and even if it's adding stress and taking away from friends and family and taking away from health, it's sometimes scary to think about not doing the thing that we've been doing for the past several years and decades of our life. So it's very easy to become a byproduct of the habits that we've had over the course of our lifetime. But if we start just working for work's sake, we have to realize there's a huge cost to that. If you're financially able, and by financially able, I mean you have enough in your portfolio or Social Security or pension or whatever income sources you have to maintain the lifestyle you want to maintain, if we continue working after that, not because we love work, but because it's what we're used to, and it's what we've always done, and we don't know what we would do without it, that becomes a real issue. So make sure you never fall into the trap of work for work's sake. There should be a purpose to work. And that purpose could be work itself. You may love work. It may be fulfilling. It may be a productive outlet or creative outlet for you. If so, wonderful. That should be something you continue doing as long as you possibly can. assuming you're still able to focus on things like friends and family, on your health, on the activities that excite you, but make sure that work's fitting into your vision of your ideal life. Make sure work doesn't become your life at the expense of everything else. So these are 5 reasons it might be time for you to retire right now. If you're resonating with any of these, or if you're saying, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but you're thinking, what about that last point? How do I know if I'm financially ready to do so? Well, I made a video that covered exactly that. So if you're wondering, how do I know if I'm financially ready? Be sure to check out this video right now where I'll walk you through. Once again, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial, and if you're interested in seeing how we help our clients at Root Financial get the most out of life with their money, be sure to visit us at www.rootfinancialpartners.com.